Hi and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2005 Ford Explorer. We're going to be changing the front brake pads, rotors, and the hardware kit. So I'm going to bring you up there. I'm going to show you exactly what to do step by step. I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need to get the job done. And if you follow my advice, you'll have a brake job that's going to be absolutely perfect. I'll bring you in. I'm going to show you why we're changing the rotors. I deal with this a lot where subscribers will ask me why you're changing the rotors. Once you take this rotor off, you'll understand why. The front of it may look decent, but the back of it, when you reach around the back, you can feel it's solid rust back there. So there's no way you can put new brake pads on an old rotor without having some kind of a squeaking or vibrating or pulsating brake pedal. So spend the extra money, change them, and you're not going to have a problem. So, all right, let's get up there. I'm going to show you step by step what to do, and we'll talk about it as we go along. So come on up front. Okay, this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to need. Now, obviously, you may not have everything exactly like I have, but it'll give you a pretty good idea of what you're going to need. You're going to need a ratchet that's got a fairly long extension on it. The longer the handle, the more leverage you can get out of it, and you'll be able to break the bolts loose easier with less force. All right, that is a 18 millimeter socket to remove the mounting bracket. This is the other handle I'm going to use to remove the caliper bolts. That I believe is a 14-inch. We're going to need some kind of a scraper or something to clean off the rust underneath the mounting brackets, a small pry bar or screwdriver, a tool like this just in case you can't push the piston back in all the way, just so you can actually push the pistons back into the bore as far as it can go. Obviously, we're going to need new brake pads, and we are going to change the hardware kit as well. This hook, or if you don't have this hook, you can use just a piece of wire to hold the caliper up and out of the way, because you do not want to have the caliper hanging while you're working on it, because you have your ABS sensor is in there and you don't want to break it. We're going to need a tool such as this, or a scraper or whatever, to clean the rust off underneath the rotor. We're going to need some synthetic brake grease. This is a breaker bar. The bolts on the back of the caliper are extremely tight. You can use a breaker bar such as this here. It's a very long bar that gives you more leverage to break it loose. But in this case, I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to use my air gun to shoot the bolts out because it's just a little bit easier for me here. We're going to need a rag, and we're also going to need some brake cleaner to clean off the rotor. Now, that's the new rotor right there. The rotor itself comes from the factory. It'll actually have oil on this surface in here as well as in here, and on the front face of it as well. We're going to clean this off with brake cleaner. You just spray it. You know what? Let's do it right now. You just spray it down with some brake cleaner just like that, and just wipe off the grease. You don't have to go crazy trying to get every little speck of grease off of it, but that'll get some of it off right there. And then obviously we're going to do the same thing on the other side here once we have it on the vehicle. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to come in here with a small pry bar or screwdriver. We're going to come in here and push that piston back into the bore as far as we can. Once that happens, we'll hang the caliper off to the side right here so that we don't hang it by this cable here, because that's the ABS sensor. We don't want to take a chance on damaging that sensor. We're going to remove that bolt there and that bolt there. And we're also going to make sure that these slide pins slide back and forth freely. If these don't slide freely, then you need to either replace the slide pins, or what I would do, change the caliper bracket itself, or replace the entire caliper with the bracket. Once we do that, we're going to come in the back over here. We're going to air gun off that bolt underneath there. You can see that's a 18 millimeter. There's one here, and there's another one up underneath the bottom right here, but I will show you that as we continue. And then we're going to take this rotor off right here. We're going to clean off underneath here where the rotor mounts onto, and then we'll reassemble it. So, all right, let's get set up and let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our small little pry bar, put it in the back of the rotor here so it comes out right through the front right here, and then we're just going to pry it very slightly just to get those pistons to push back in. Now, you will notice I have a bucket down on the ground because this master cylinder was slightly overfilled, and we don't want to make a mess on the floor, so we do have a bucket down there to catch the fluid. Now, this is how you check the slide pins. Slide it back and forth like that. It slides freely, so we know that these slide pins are okay. We are going to lubricate them, but they do slide nice and freely. We are not able to push the pistons all the way back in because the brake pad in the back right here is rusted into the bracket. So we're not going to push those pistons in any further. We'll use this tool later on to push the pistons back in. All right, so right now we're going to take out those two bolts right there. They're 14 millimeter. You just hit them and they pop right off. They're really not that tight. We'll unscrew the bolts out like that. So now we're going to take these, put them on the side because we're going to use them again. We're going to take our hook, just take the caliper like this, put a hook through the back like that, and then we'll just hang it up and out of the way so that it doesn't really hang by these, by the ABS cable itself. So we're just going to support it just like that, up out of the way so that it's hanging in. Can you see that back in there? There you go. We're just hanging it up inside here so that it's not in the way where we're working. All right? Okay, next thing we're going to do is now these brake pads here, remember what I was telling you about how rusty they are? You can see that that brake pad is supposed to come out of there and they're rusted in place. So that they're not coming out. That's why we're going to, it is moving out. But this is the problem. They're rusted into the bracket. So that's why we are going to change them. And as you can see, there's really nothing left on there. That probably broke out now when I was in there prying on it, but you could see that there's nothing left on the brake pads, and you can see where the rust is in the back of the rotor. That's where it's actually, the rotor's so rusty you cannot reuse it. So we'll put this on the side for now, and this one we'll take out as well. We are going to get rid of these brackets, these mounting hardware as well. And you can take them out here, or you can take them out on the bench, whatever works for you. So we're going to take out that bolt right there, and we're going to take out that bolt right there. Now before you totally take them out, you want to break both of them loose first. The reason I say break them both loose first is because you do not want to break the one bolt loose and take it out. If you have this bolt out and you try to break this one loose, this will pull up and down, or vice versa. All right, so after you break them loose, take these bolts out. Okay. The reason that the pad sticks is because in here it gets rusty. And when you have rust inside there, it keeps the brake pad from sliding back and forth. The way you get these out is you just get in here with the screwdriver and you just pry it out. And they come right out. And you can see how much rust is in here. That's why it's sticking. So we're going to clean that up real good, but we'll do that in just a minute. Now our slide pins, we know that they slide properly. You can see them, which is very important. If they don't slide properly, you'll be replacing it, but this one is good. All right, our rotor now comes right off. If your rotor is stuck and you can't get it off, you can hit it in the back right here to pull it off, or they make a tool, a hub, a rotor puller, also made by OTC. It works really well to get these rotors off when they're stuck. But you can see how much rust is in the back there. And that's why we can't do anything with this. We have to change it. Now, this area right in here is pretty rusty. We need to clean this off. So you can get in here with the, you know what, let's get a light on. Let's turn this a little bit so you can see. You see how rusty this is right here? You can scrape it off with a scraper, such as this, You can use emery cloth, you can use a regular scraper like this to clean it off, or you can use a tool like this, and you can get in there and clean it off with that tool. So this is the way I'm going to do it. So let me get that cleaned up here, and once I get it clean, then we'll come right back and put it back together. Once we have the face here on this bearing clean, we're going to put our new rotor back on, and that just pushes on just like that. And then what we're going to do is you take a lug nut like this, and you just screw it on here to hold the rotor in place while you're working. It's a lot easier to secure the rotor out of the way, or in position, like that, instead of playing with it banging around. All right? Next thing we're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to clean off all of that rust inside there. So if you have a file, you can file it. If you have a wire wheel, you can clean it up with the wire wheel, or emery cloth, whatever you have to clean this up. So we're going to clean this rust inside here. I'm going to take it over to the wire wheel. Once I have this cleaned up, we'll come back and we'll put our hardware kit back on. Now that we have everything all cleaned up inside here, we're just going to put a little bit of synthetic grease on here where the mounting bracket is going to go. I'm sorry, where the hardware kit is going to go. Just a little bit of grease on it, just like that. And we take our new clip. You take the clip and you have to make sure that these pieces right here are in all the way. So we're going to put this over the top like that. You push it down like this. And then you push down right here, there, and there. And then the clip is in and held in place, all right? We're going to do the exact same thing here. Put it over the top like that. Push it down. You feel it snap in. And then we're just going to push right here like that to make sure that that's down all the way. And that's it. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out these slide pins right here. They're going to go back in the same hole that you take them out. So you want to just pull it. You got to pull it out like that. We're going to do the same. I'm holding the rubber boot down in case you wonder what I'm doing. We're going to spray a little bit of brake cleaner on here. And then we're going to take out the slide pin, clean the grease off of it, like that. It's hard to do with this without doing it on the bench, but we just clean it off just like this. Put a little bit of synthetic grease on that slide pin, just like that. And then the slide pin goes back in the same hole it came out, and you push it in, you'll feel it slides nice and easy. You want to make sure that that boot goes all the way back up onto the top there. You'll see it pops in there. If not, you give it a little pull. Just like that. Just got to make sure that boot pops all the way back up onto that top lip. So we're going to take this one out. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to clean this off with some brake cleaner. Just like that. I'm going to wipe off any grease that's on here, because you'll have the old grease on here as well. Okay, just like that. Then we just put a little bit of the new grease on here, just like this. You want to make sure that you don't put grease down on this end here, otherwise when you push it back in, the grease on there is going to cause this to push back out. Right, I'm going to take this, put it in through here, just turn it, and push it in, and it snaps up just like that. The brake pad itself, we're going to take, before we put anything back on here, we're going to take the brake pads, the new brake pads. We're going to take these, we're going to take our caliper and bring it over here, like this. I'm going to turn this so you can see. We're going to put this brake pad like this, right? And we're going to take this brake pad and put it in there like that. Then we're going to take our tool, and you put the tool in between here. Now there's lots of different kinds of tools that you can use to do this. This tool I've been using just about forever, so that's the one I've been using, and that's the one I have, but they have lots of different ones in there. And what it does, it pushes that piston back in there, nice and slow. All right, you see how it's moving? Just remember, slow and steady. You don't have to put a lot of brute force into it, but just keep it pushing in steady. All right? And once the pistons are pushed in all the way, then we can take this tool back off. We're going to take these two brake pads back out, and then we're going to hang our caliper one more time up underneath here, just to get it out of the way for now, and we'll come right back to that in a minute. Now, every place that the brake pad is going to touch, you want to put a little bit of silicone on here, just so it slides nice and freely. Okay, just like that. Now with the now with the brake pads, you take the brake pad and you can put it in here like this. It's easier to do this now than when it's in the vehicle, because here you can see what's going on. In a vehicle you won't be able to. So we're just going to take this, because this is the inner brake pad, like that, and push it in just like that. See? And we do the same thing on the other one. Take the brake pad, push it in there like that. In the rear end, but that's pretty much what it looks like. Now we're going to take this, put it back over the rotor, just like that. And then after you have it over the top, slide it down where it belongs, squeeze your brake pads together so they don't fall out. And then we're going to catch both of the bolts that hold the mounting bracket on. You're going to catch them both by hand. You don't want to shoot these on with an air gun or even try to tighten them up. You want to catch them both in there first before you do anything. All right, and now we'll tighten up the bolts. Hold your brake pads so they don't fall out. Let me grab some brake cleaner, and we're going to clean off that grease on there. Okay, now that we have all that grease is cleaned off, we're going to take our brake caliper, and every place that the brake piston or brakes are going to touch the caliper, you want to put a tiny little bit of grease, just like that. Anything that touches the brake pad, just a little bit, okay? Same thing right here, and here, and of course right there. All right, then we'll take this, put it over the top here, and these pins need to go, you see how this is cut right here, flush? You need to have these pins turned sideways so they go right inside there. Just like this, there, and the same thing down on the bottom there. Now we're going to catch both the bolts before we tighten anything up. We're going to catch both of them. See, if you don't have this flat right here, this piece here will be turned and you won't be able to get the bolt in. So make sure that this flat piece is right there where it belongs. All right, and now that you have both bolts caught, we snug these down nice and tight. And that's it. Great job is done. So let me get these gloves off and we're going to recap exactly what we did. Okay, so we did clean off the rotor itself with brake cleaner. We made sure that the hub bearing itself was nice and clean underneath here, where the new rotor is going to go on to. We installed our new rotor. We put our mounting bracket back on. We tightened up that 17 millimeter there and also the 17 millimeter down there. We installed our new hardware kit. We lubricated every place that the brake pad is going to touch, both on the hardware kit and on the caliper itself. We lubricated where the piston is going to touch into the brake pad itself. Of course, we lubricated the slide pins, so we know that they're lubricated really well, bottom and top. We then installed our 14 millimeter bolts here and here, and we tightened them up. And most important is we made sure that that slide pin is in its correct location. And that's it. You're all done. So that's it. The brake job is all finished. Now, keep in mind that before you take the vehicle out for a drive, you want to get in the car after you put the wheels back on, of course. You're going to pump that brake pedal up. The first couple of times you step on the brakes, they're going to go right to the floor. So make sure you pump at least 4 or 5 times until that pedal comes right back up to the top. What you're basically doing is you're taking the piston and you're pushing the piston back out to come in contact with the 2 new brake pads that you put on, which then come in contact with the rotor, so it's a nice firm pedal. And that's it. Once you take it out for a drive, you may notice a little bit of burning, maybe a little bit of like an oily type smell. Perfectly normal because you have everything underneath here is brand new, and sometimes you have a little bit of grease still left inside the rotor. But that's it. You're all done, ready to go, and you know, you'll have a perfect job. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.